All right. I think we're working now. Make sure this is going. All right. Well, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the world's #1 English fluency guide. I tried doing this a minute ago and it did not work. So we'll see if live is connected and working and picking up sound. It should be. So I'll give people a minute to join, but hopefully this is working and we get some people in the chat. And yeah, so let me know. We'll begin. Let me know where you're from if you have any questions. All right, hi. Look at that. Nice to see the chat is working over here. Okay, so the video, the live is working. It was not working before. But anyway, this should be entertaining, and whether you're watching it live or not, hopefully this should be helpful for you. Nice to see you there, Gil from Brazil. I like that rhymes, Gil from Brazil. All right, hello, hello. All right, we've got more people watching than we are. Huh, that's interesting. Okay, all right, now it's like the the numbers are coming up. Okay, the last video I did, I want to keep this one pretty short, so I will try to keep it under 15 minutes. And then if you have any questions, you can let me know and I'll stay a little bit longer. But let's go. 横浜に住んでる。よかったね。行ったことある。So nice to see everybody there, and nice to see, let's see, I'll go back, check the chat. So nice to see Alexander. We got Vietnam, Dominican Republic. You are the best teacher, says Rodrigo. Rodrigo, you were too kind. All right, well, if you do enjoy this, do share it. Let other people know this is happening. Thanks so much for all classes. Yeah, it's my pleasure. All right, so today I want to talk about fear. It should be a very simple explanation, but hopefully people understand why it happens. My markers. All right, so the first thing to understand about fear, so number one, when you have fear of speaking, so I help a lot of people with this. Actually, I created a whole program about just dealing with this one issue because it's such a big, Alexander says, I want to know your favorite football team in this World Cup. Yeah, I'm not paying attention to the World Cup. I like soccer or football, but I'm not really watching it. I just see some highlights, but I haven't seen any full games this year. I haven't really watched World Cup in a long time. Anyway, back to fear. So I can help you with this video if you have fear of speaking English, or you have any kind of nervousness about speaking English or worry about speaking English, but you can speak your native language just fine. So if you have problems communicating in your native language, this is a little bit of a different video. So I help people, this video specifically is for people who they speak their native language just fine. So they don't have problems communicating or asking questions or getting questions from other people. They just speak normally. Now, a lot of people still have trouble when they're in front of a large group. So you might have, that's kind of a separate issue if you are nervous about speaking in front of a big group of people. But I'm just talking about actual everyday one-on-one or one in a small group conversation. So if you have no problem with that in your native language, but you do have that problem in English, then really we're going to talk about that here in this video. And so the reason, really the number one reason for fear, and people were telling me I need to I need to write more clearly. People are getting angry at my writing, so let me make sure I write this clearly. It takes a little bit longer. So the number one reason for fear is doubt. All right, so this is it. This is really the number one cause of fear. You might have worries about pronunciation or your grammar or something like that, but really what this means is you have doubts about particular words and phrases or how to say something. So if you're in a conversation and you notice, I want to say a word, but I forget that word, or I can't remember exactly how to express something, it's because you have a doubt about a particular thing. Hopefully this makes sense. So it's a very simple issue, and it's a very logical issue as well. All right. So in regular everyday conversations, people want to express themselves. And if you can't say what you want to say, or you don't sound natural, or you're worried about your pronunciation, of course you will feel nervous about speaking. So number one, doubt is the reason for this, and you also don't have to feel bad about that. We all experience this when we're trying to do something new and we're not confident in it yet. So doubt, it's really just another way of saying that you don't have confidence about a particular thing. So it could be vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, whatever that is, but doubt is really the issue. So in this video, I want to briefly talk about the two ways, the two cures for this. There are two things you can do. So the first one, and this is something I talk about in a program I have called The Insight, but this is basically an idea about overcoming the fear, to overcome the fear. Hopefully this is, some more Japanese. It's nice to see some Japanese learners here, or at least people in Japan. So the first thing you can do if you have doubt or you have worries about communication is you can overcome that fear. So what do I mean by overcome that fear? Let's imagine you have, if we were to put this on a graph, make this nice and simple, let's say you have like this much fear of speaking English. We'll just say this is like your level of fear. So you have this much fear, and if you, like, let's say you're trying to have a conversation with someone, or you don't really, it's not very important that you say something. If you don't go above this level with confidence, then you're not going to speak. This sounds like kind of a strange way of explaining this, but basically you need to have more fear than confidence if you're going to speak. And so you can do this, again, this is overcoming the fear. So overcoming means we rise above that, we get to a higher level, just like you overcome a problem. So the problem doesn't really go away, you kind of get beyond that thing, you overcome the fear. So to overcome, again, you really do this, and I explain a lot more in detail about this, but it's really remembering the value that you can give to somebody in a conversation. So even if you don't communicate correctly or you're worried about your pronunciation, if you have really valuable advice to give to someone, then you will overcome that fear. Okay? So if your desire to help someone, or you feel what you have to say is very important, even if you have worries about your pronunciation or grammar or vocabulary, you will speak. Okay? So this is overcoming the fear. Does everyone get that point? Hopefully this makes sense. The point is really just to have more desire to help somebody or to express something because you feel that's valuable. So if the value that you have is higher, it's greater than the fear you have, you will overcome the fear and you will speak. You will still probably make mistakes, but the mistakes are not so important. So if I have some very important advice to give to some young person about life or something, and maybe my pronunciation isn't perfect, the important thing is the advice I'm giving them. Okay? So less so the important or the fear of that, so the advice I want to give is more valuable or more important than any fear that they might have. All right, so this is how you overcome fear. Now the second one is much more interesting. It takes a little bit longer, but this is really like the path to fluency and having fantastic confidence. So this is, again, overcoming something. So overcoming means you have greater So to overcome means you have greater value than fear. So greater value to provide by speech, whatever that is. So even if your pronunciation is not very good, if you feel like you have greater value to share, then you will speak. So the other one is to destroy the fear. All right. So when you destroy the fear, this means you're actually eliminating the fear from your conversations. Okay. Now again, this takes a little bit longer, but the main idea is that if you don't have any fear, then obviously you'll be a much better speaker. Well, I can't read that. Well, you can learn if you practice with me here. So these videos are for people who already understand some English, or actually maybe a lot of English, but they still can't speak fluently. And one of the reasons is because people have doubts. So let's talk about that. So destroying fear, this is the other thing you can do. So you can overcome the fear, meaning the fear is still there, or you can destroy the fear. And destroying the fear comes as you understand English more and more. So I'll give you an example from my daughters. Talk about destroying the fear. So my younger daughters, or both of them, my older daughter and my younger daughter, were watching a movie and they learned the word space. S-P-A-C-E, space. And they didn't quite know what this word means. So what they were watching a movie and they learned this word, but they didn't really understand it. So they begin by just hearing something. So you might hear a word or a phrase in a conversation or in a movie, and you don't quite understand that thing. But you're kind of beginning that. I'll just put this down at the bottom. This is a little bit easier to understand. So you begin by hearing something, or maybe you see it if you're reading a book. So you begin by hearing or seeing some kind of vocabulary, and then if you only hear it one time, you will not feel very confident about that. All right? So you just hear something. My daughters hear the word space in a movie, and they think, I can kind of understand what that's about, but not really. So my older daughter came into my room and she asked me, what does space mean? And I said, oh, where did you hear that? Where did you hear that? So I don't want to just give her a definition. I actually want to help her understand something, because the understanding is what leads to confidence. Okay, this is how we destroy fear. So she said, oh, we were watching a movie about some dogs and they go up into space. If you're familiar, this is a Paw Patrol movie, if you know what that is. If you have kids or you know people with kids, you might know what this is. But she was watching or they were watching this, and then they had trouble understanding it, so they asked me, and they said, oh, like they go up into space, or they were talking about space like that, but they didn't quite understand it. And I said, oh, you mean like outer space, like if you know, this is like Earth or whatever, and then you like the area around it. So if you're in like a rocket or something and you go up like up here, now you are in space. And then they said, oh, like, now I get it. Okay, now I get it. So we move from hearing and seeing something to understanding it. All right? And as we move from just hearing something to actually understanding it, the confidence increases and the fear decreases, or the doubt decreases. I call it fear because this is just like a feeling we experience. It's really the same thing as excitement, but we're nervous about something, or we're worried about something at the same time. So once they understood space and they understood what this means, then something clicked in their mind. It's like, oh, wait, I think I remember like spaceship from the movie. And so they're starting to make connections between different things, and like a spaceship or like a space suit. And so as they get more examples of something, space pants, yeah, you could have that. And they learn, maybe some slightly different examples. So we have space, like there's space in my hands. So as we cover a few related examples, this is where they start really becoming more confident about using something. So we go from understanding something to getting naturally varied review. And as they get naturally varied review, so they learn space, spaceship. Oh, okay, now this is like a ship, like a craft or something out in space. Or I might have space in my house to put something. So I don't mean outer space. So this is like this area around the Earth, we call that outer space, Or you will hear it, so it's O-U, like out, like that, but we have a kind of a D sound, outer space. So it sounds like O-U-D-E-R, outer, outer. The British pronunciation would be more like outer, outer space. All right? And so as soon as you get more and more of these examples, okay, we've got spaceship, spacesuit, I've got space, or I've got like space in my schedule. So if you're learning even more examples of something, like if I have a calendar here, so this day and this day, oh no. So this day I am busy, and this day I am busy, but this time I am free. So you can say I have space, I have space. I have space in my schedule. I have space in my schedule. So this is just another way of saying I have time in my schedule. All right? So notice as you get more and more examples, as the examples increase, the doubt goes down. Okay? So this is confidence over here, and this is, let's put a D for doubt. Does this make sense? So the goal, you can either very quickly overcome the fear that you have by remembering some value. Maybe you want to even just listen to someone and just be in a conversation because you think it will help the person in some way. You want to give some kind of value to that person. But the other way is you getting more and more examples until you feel so confident that you just automatically use something. Okay? I'll give you another very quick example. We're already at 16 minutes. I want to keep this short. But this was another example where my older daughter used the word secret passage, the secret passage. And so I said, oh, where did you learn that? So she was describing, we put up a Christmas tree in our house. And this Christmas tree, I'll draw kind of a picture, general shape of the Christmas tree, and there's a little Christmas tree stand that's holding up the tree. And this Christmas tree stand has some holes in it, like this. And you can put something through that if you like. And so what my daughters have done is they took some little animals or dolls or other things like that, and they put them around the bottom of the tree. And she said, look, like there's a secret passage where they can go through. And I was amazed because I didn't know that she knows that vocabulary. So secret, a secret passage, secret passage. And immediately I said, where did you learn that? Where did you learn secret passage? Because I didn't teach her that, and her mother didn't teach her that. Nobody taught her that, but she got that from a different movie or TV show or something like that. And what happened here is because she understood the vocabulary, so she knows secret, and she learned passage from the TV show. So she's watching, and she described, oh, okay, there's a castle. There's like a secret door in a castle, and the characters were going through that secret door, and they called it a secret passage, a secret passage. So she used the vocabulary perfectly just from understanding it. So she was not practicing, she was not walking around the house saying secret passage, trying to repeat that. The secret for her was understanding the vocabulary, okay? And so sometimes you can understand something very quickly with just one example. So if I'm going to teach you something in Japanese, like I've given these examples before, if we've got two markers, the only thing different, if I say aka, ao, aka, ao. Now you might not remember that word. If I'm again going to give you something again and again, that's what's going to help you use it and remember it. But if I'm going to give you just a simple example like this, you can understand what I mean very quickly. So most people have trouble understanding something, and they often, like in the case of pronunciation, they will hear a teacher explain something very slowly and clearly, like I'm speaking right now, but they will have trouble expressing themselves in a conversation or understanding natives because natives don't speak like that. So the pronunciation is different for different people. But the interesting thing is, again, it's understanding something that really lets you speak. And when you understand something, the doubt goes away, you destroy the fear, and you can finally express yourself. So the more you get examples of different things as you learn, that's what's really going to eliminate the fear. It will make you feel very confident about explaining something or just expressing yourself or being in a conversation with other people. I'll just give one last thing. I know I said I wanted to keep this around 15 minutes. I think we started a little late. But just on the topic of pronunciation, I wanted to give a better example of this. So let's say I hear the word, you can give me a word that you have trouble pronouncing. Some people tell me the word water is difficult to pronounce. So I often hear that from people. Now you will hear a native speaker in a conversation will sound a little bit different than I do, and also depending on where you are. So you might hear a British speaker might say like water. But a British is going to be different, and even different parts of Britain will sound different than parts of the United States. So this would be more of like a D sound in American English. Water, 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 water. All right, so comfort. Okay, we've got another example. Let's see. From Aisha gives me the example of comfort. I think this was another example word that I got from maybe 2 videos ago. So comfort, you can say comfort, 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 if you're trying to pronounce it clearly. But in a conversation, I might say like comfort, comfort. You comfortable? Or so here we have comfortable. So you might have comfortable, or you might have comfortable, comfortable, comfortable. You will hear both of those. And the point I'm trying to make is that just like with the vocabulary, as you get more examples of something, that's what really builds your confidence and eliminates the doubt and fear. So you hear the word comfortable, nice and slow and clear from a teacher, comfortable, comfortable. But in a real conversation, you might hear comfortable or comfortable. You might hear both of those. But as you get more examples, so this person says it like this person says it like this person, each of these people has a different way of speaking. And so as you get these, you feel much more confident about the kind of range that you have over here. All right, ohayou gozaimasu. Pronounce often. Yes, you will hear often, like often or often. You will hear it. Actually, I even say it with both using the T or not using the T. But the point is not to get one pronunciation, because you get many examples of that from people, and the more examples you get, that's how you become much more confident about speaking. Does that make sense? So rather than looking for one example of a vocabulary, like a word or some grammar, or looking for one example of pronunciation, you actually want to hear many different people saying things. And that's what eliminates the doubt and the fear. All right? All right, let's go back. So that's basically it for the lesson. If you have questions about anything I've just talked about, let me know. I'll go back and see if there are any, let's see, any questions. I have to work now, but I will watch this later. I'm a big fan of you and your class. Madane, madane. All right, see you later. Let's see. All right. Yeah, I don't know who's, I think there are other people. Let's see, let's meet again. My teacher, I'm here one more time. Hello there, Drew. All right, going back, accomplished or performed. Yep, so those are other, again, words you might hear accomplished, or you might hear accomplished, where the P is, it's almost silent, accomplished, 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 accomplished. All right. So reading about pronunciation, tree and three. Rural, please. Butter. If you want to hear me personally just say a bunch of things, you should get Frederick. If you don't have the app already. So you can hear me pronounce all of these different things already in the app as much as you like. I can repeat it. Oh, konomari. Oh. What, did we meet? Are you Japanese? 道春? この間来た。来た時に? 月曜日に、火曜日かな? 火曜日に来たかな? 覚えてない。 All right, so hello everyone. I'm here for first time. I hope you can improve my English with your classes. Yes, I'm happy to help you. Woman life for okay. All right, let's see here. All right, so if we have no okay. 分かったね。英語頑張ってね。この英語は多分難しいかもしれないけどね。So this is a young student that I was helping who was interested in learning about YouTube. So this is a young Brazilian student. I actually told this the story to some of my subscribers. Let's see. Can I speak iron? Iron. So Jose asks about iron. 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 So I know it sounds like it should be iron. 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 So remember, if you're in a conversation and you're worried about, you feel doubt or you feel nervousness about something, really what you should do is either try to focus on the value you give, and just for that conversation, maybe there's not much you can do for learning more in that conversation. So remember the value that you can give to other people, but then in the long term, as you continue to learn, remember to get more examples until you really feel confident about something. Because the first time you hear it, you will probably not feel very confident about using something. You need to hear something again and again in order to become a much more confident speaker, all right? And it's really the erasure of doubt. So if you eliminate doubt, as you do that, you will feel much more confident about speaking. Aish says, please pronounce entrepreneur, entrepreneur, entrepreneur. I earn. Yeah, it sounds kind of like I earn. Thanks for the class. Can you pronounce can, can't, and con? Can, can't, and con. Con. So another one, people are asking me now about pronunciation. I wanted to give a few examples of pronunciation, but the basic way, does everybody know what this is? Phonics. Let me know if you know what phonics is. So phonics meaning like sound. These are the pronunciation rules of English, phonics. And so this is what we teach in Frederick. So when you learn the difference between words like a can and con, when you compare them, if you can listen to both of these sounds, you can hear the difference. K, can, and this is an con. So to con someone, meaning to trick someone, to con something, and can like a can, or I can do something. So when you're listening for pronunciation, it's important to compare the different and related sounds. All right. So this is what we do in Frederick. Who has this app? If you have this app, let me know. Let's see if we have any other questions. Hi from Dominican Republic. I need to practice to improve my English. Nice to see you there, Jose. My issue when it comes to communication with others, my mind goes blank. Yeah. So the reason, like the doubt that people have, or the particular problems people have about like your mind going blank, or you're forgetting words, you can't think of the exact right thing to say, is because of how people learn. So most people are teaching English, they use your native language. So they use your native language and then translate that into English. So that's kind of the first one. So we're going to use translations. And also we will be studying grammar rules. Rather than what natives do, which is understand vocabulary in the context of the situation. So whatever is really happening, like if I pick something up, I pick up a marker. I'm picking up a marker. My young daughters, they don't know what a verb is. I say, hey, what is a verb? They don't know, but they know to pick something up. Okay? So it's really the way people learn, and the biggest problem with this is that people don't get lots and lots of different related examples. This is really the biggest problem that people have, and it's not your fault as a learner. This is just the way everybody teaches. So instead of doing kind of one example or one definition, you should be learning the native way, which is helping yourself understand like a native. Okay? So this begins, we have, instead of learning through your native language, you learn all in English. Okay? So you don't use any translations, we're not using your native language, you learn everything all in English. And we're not trying to study grammar rules, we're trying to understand grammar from situations. And then we want to get lots and lots of examples. Many. Many examples. Hopefully this is clear enough for people. So we have learning everything all in English, then you're learning through situations rather than trying to understand vocabulary from definitions or translations. And then you're getting lots and lots of examples so that you feel more confident. As your understanding improves, that's when you really feel confident about speaking, and that's when you become a much more fluent speaker. All right, we look like we had a bunch of comments that came in. All right. So, okay, so your mind goes blank. Yeah, hopefully I answered that. So the reason, like, it's these kinds of things, these kinds of learning methods that cause your mind to go blank and to forget words or to not know to not understand natives, that kind of thing. All right, so why are some letters silent in English? It's just part of the history of the language. And so some words come from other languages, and we might just like keep that spelling, but the pronunciation would be different. That's why we have it. So there are a lot of funny rules in the language, but if you understand phonics and you learn it like a native, then you will understand it and be able to pronounce things correctly. All right, St. Ulrich, let's see. Thank you for for that you do. I follow you from France. Nice to see you there. And I would like to know when you are live, every Wednesday or... I don't have a schedule for this. I probably should. Usually I'm live around this time, but I don't want to make a commitment because there might be some times I can't do it. But lately I have been doing Monday and Thursday Japan time. So this is Thursday over here. Please pronounce world and word. World, word. All right. Look at that. Got a lot of Japanese, at least Japanese names. Are these all people? Do you like Japanese, or are these actual Japanese people? I'm just surprised because I rarely get Japanese speakers on the chat with me. Thank you for teaching. I follow you from France. Oh, okay. Also from. Yeah, you also from France? Nakayama-san? Me, I have this app. Glad to hear it. Yes. So if you're using Frederick, you can actually compare the different sounds. So you can hear things like a can or con, and that will help you pronounce things correctly. All right, Jose says, excellent pronunciation, very clear. So very clear, I understand perfectly well. Yes, so I am making my pronunciation easy to understand. So the point, when you're listening to me, my job is to, in these videos, just to give you like a nice clear speech. And this is just the base of understanding, like we talked about before. So you hear something, or you read something, you see it somewhere, and this is just the beginning of understanding for developing fluency. So you might hear a word or see a word, but still not know what it means and still not feel confident using it. So just like when I'm pronouncing something clearly, it's for you to understand, but you still need many, many more examples for you to feel confident about using it. I want to make this as short as possible, so if I can give you a good, simple explanation so you understand what the word means, then it's much faster, but you still need many examples, especially with pronunciation. Okay? So you don't want to have just one example of a teacher saying something, especially a clear voice like mine. So I'm here to help you understand things, but you still need lots of more examples to understand. All right, let's see. Jamili says, I have problems with my dictation. You mean diction or dictation? I practice with a lot of oh, you are talking about dictation. Okay, writing words that I want to learn, but I forgot so instantly. Could you please give me some advice for memorizing dictation? I don't understand the exact issue. It sounds like you're trying to memorize things by repeating them. And this rarely works. I've talked about this in other videos. I'll take a moment and explain this now. So I think in maybe the last video or 2 videos ago, I talked about the different ways of learning. So if you hear something one time, you are probably going to forget that. So it might be a new word, you're in a conversation, you hear someone say something, it might be an interesting word, but maybe you still forget that. And the second thing, so this is number 1, just hearing something one time. Number 2, you hear something or you try to write that thing, you're trying to repeat that same thing again and again. So you're taking the same thing, it could be a word or a phrase or a grammar point, some pronunciation, whatever that thing is, and you're just trying to repeat that exact same thing. But the reason this doesn't work, so if you're trying to write something again and you still can't remember, it's because the brain hates this kind of learning, where you're trying to take something and repeat it over and over again. This is helpful for kind of learning something, like if I have to learn, like if I'm trying to learn to write, some Japanese characters or something like that. It's like I want to remember, like what's the stroke order for for woman. Like in this character, it's like, okay, like that and like that and like that. Kind of like that. So I have to practice that and remember what it is. But when you're learning a bunch of different vocabulary, it's much better, rather than repeating one thing again and again, you want to get a different mix of lots of related examples. So this is the third one. And so the idea here is that you're building a network in your mind of these different things. And so number 1 and number 2, this is about kind of learning. So you learn a phrase or a word or a grammar point or something like that, and then you just try to repeat that again and again. But instead of doing this, you're actually learning from situations over here. And this just means you take an idea, like a greeting, like I talked about in that video, where you're giving a greeting, like saying hello to somebody. And in this one, you learn a phrase like hello, and then you try repeating that. So I will write the word hello, 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 write it again and again. But here we're just talking about different greetings. So to greetings. So different greetings that you might say in a conversation. So you might hear hello, but you also hear hey, hi, what's up, good afternoon, good day. You'll hear lots of different examples. So each of these things, like this is hello, this is hey, this is hi, because you're getting all these different examples from greetings, and it's the network that makes the situation memorable. So even if you forget the word hello, you still remember the word hey. All right? So rather than, there are times when it's good to try to learn something and repeat that again and again, like the example I gave for me learning Japanese, like written Japanese. But when you have you're trying to build confidence and fluency, you actually need to build this network here. So you don't want to just write something and repeat a word like that. You want to hear lots of different examples in different situations, but it's related to this. So the topic is greetings, and what do you hear different people say when they're greeting each other? So if I'm out talking to different friends, so I might go to a party and I have my children with me, I might say hello or hey or hi to different people. But my children watch that and they say, oh, they're not thinking consciously or logically about this, but they're recognizing in a situation where you greet somebody, there are all these different ways that you could speak. And as you learn these different things, that's what builds the network that gives you the confidence for speaking, for understanding people, and for building confidence. So rather than trying to take one thing and remember it, to write it over and over and over again, it's much better to get lots of different examples. Now you might, like, the first kind of writing something is to help you understand that word. Like if you can't hear something in a movie, you see some actors talking and you need the subtitles or the captions. That's okay, just to recognize what's being said. But then once you understand it, you want to get get many more examples of that thing. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. All right. So let's see, Kyle, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know it's not the best way to learn English, but grammar rules help me a lot. I think it could take a long time to learn without knowing some grammar. Okay, let me answer this question for everybody to make sure people understand what I'm saying. I'll write this in big red letters to make sure it's clear. You must learn grammar. You must learn grammar, okay? So just so everybody is clear about my view about this, you must learn grammar. Grammar is the most important thing, really, because even if your pronunciation is not very good, if your grammar is bad, that's much worse, as long as people can hear you. All right, so you must learn grammar. Now here's the difference in what I do. So there are two ways to learn grammar. Way number one, we're going to read textbooks, and we're going to try to memorize rules. Okay, this is what most people do. We're going to give you a gap-filling exercise, or I will say, okay, can you tell me what the past participle of a vocabulary, or whatever, something like that. So we're going to learn that kind of vocabulary. All right, so this is what most students do because this is what most teachers do. Okay, so you must learn grammar, and there are two ways of doing it. So the first way is using textbooks. The second way is understanding situations. The grammar comes from, in the same way a native would learn this. So we'll put an S here for student and an N here for natives. So natives are learning vocabulary this way. I can talk to my children. They know many, many phrasal verbs, like pick up and put down and turn over and cut through and pull out. But they don't know what the word or the phrasal verb means. Okay? So there's no reason to learn this information if you understand it from situations. Now, the important thing here is if you learn this way, so if you learn this way, then you will have to think about rules when you speak. And that's why, or what's really another reason why people struggle in conversations. Okay? So if you think about grammar rules when you learn, you will think about grammar rules when you speak. All right? If you think about, I'm repeating this because it's so important, if you think about grammar rules when you learn, you will think about grammar rules when you speak. But if you understand situations, you speak fluently because there's nothing stopping you from communicating. You understand something, I have a marker in my hand. I have a marker. And I show that to my children and they understand the grammar. I have a red marker. I have a blue marker. I have two markers. And I'm just giving them a few different examples of something like have. And they're not thinking about like the present and the past in a logical way, like the way you might learn it in a textbook. But they understand and they get lots of examples. So it just becomes a natural thing for them. So they can say, I have a marker. I have a blue marker. I have two markers. And then they can also learn related things like I have a black shirt. I have two eyes. I have green eyes. This color is called hazel. It's a mix of brown and green, hazel. So I have two eyes. I have a nose. I have no time today. So as they start learning all these examples, they really get a strong understanding of something from the situations that they're learning in. All right? So the job is not to just study textbooks, because if you do this, then you will think about those things. And this is when people worry, like, is it go here or that vocabulary or that? This is where a lot of people struggle, because they're thinking about textbooks when they learn, so they think about textbooks when they speak. All right? If you're just watching movies and you don't communicate, it's fine to learn like this if you want to. But if you want to speak, and most of the people I help on my channel and in my programs, it's people who want to speak. So this is how you do it, all right? So you must learn grammar. And sometimes it's useful to get an explanation about how something works, because maybe the language it's just different. Like, you can get a quick explanation, but you don't want to just study textbooks, all right? You don't want to try to memorize grammar rules. So in this way of learning, you begin with a grammar point. Okay, like let's do like the past simple. Today, class, we're going to learn about the past simple. And then I've started the lesson with you thinking about a grammar structure that you probably don't even know what past simple is in your native language. You might know that because you're studying English or because you had to learn this in a classroom. But if you ask native speakers, most native speakers would probably not be able to tell you an example of the past simple. And that means that you don't need to know that information to speak fluently. So native speakers, all of them can use the past simple, but they might not know the phrase or the term, like for learning grammar, past simple. But what a native speaker is doing is they're learning, like yesterday, I ran. So I ask my kids, I say, what did you do? What did you do in school? And so every day they get more examples of this. And I'm being very conscious about how I teach them, because they don't have a lot of time for learning or using English. They spend most of their time speaking Japanese. But I can give them very simple examples, like yesterday, what did you do? What did you do? So what did you do like yesterday, or what did you do? What did you eat? What did you play, or where did you go? And as they hear these examples, they're understanding the past simple without trying to get a lot of study about that. So I don't give them gap-filling exercises. I don't give them flashcards or have them study any textbooks at home. But I do give them situations, because that's how the mind wants to learn. So remember, how you learn is how you speak. How you learn is how you speak. So yes, it is helpful to get some grammar explanations sometimes, but really, you should be able to get lessons. If they're good lessons, they help you understand from the situation. So if I see, like even I've given these examples before for Japanese, where you have, like, I drop something on my head, or I get hurt, or something happens, and I say, itai, itai, itai. And then you understand what that means, even if you're not a Japanese speaker. And so young children, so Japanese children, learn like, ita, ita. They learn these different ways of saying, that hurt, or that's painful. In English, we might say, ouch. So I heard something, ouch. And so that's why children learn that vocabulary, because they look at the situation and what do people say in that situation. And the great thing about this is that it teaches you vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, all of that is mixed as one thing. So it's not like, let's just learn some examples of the past simple. Let's see, when do people use the past simple? So you begin with the situation, not just like a grammar point floating in space. All right, so grammar is important, it's essential, you must learn grammar, but if you learn it this way, you will probably struggle to speak. If you learn it this way, you will become a fluent speaker. All right, let's see if we have any more. Let's see. All right, we are 73. Don't forget to like the live people. Yes. Yes, if you're enjoying this video, please click the like button and do share it with others who might be interested in improving. So I am an Urdu speaker, Urdu speaker from Pakistan. Nice to see you there. Size is translating from my native language to English in my head before speaking is not going to work. Yes, that's correct. So it's possible you can do it, but that's why people struggle to speak. So they are thinking first, what do I want to say? And then they translate it in their head into English, and then is that grammar correct? And they're thinking, they get really confused, and they're trying to understand what the other person is saying at the same time. It's a lot of trouble, and it's really tiring to be in that. So when I first came to Japan, that's how I was for trying to learn Japanese. I was trying to learn Japanese this way. And that's why I struggled to speak. And it was really, I remember I would come back from a party or something, and it's just other Japanese speakers there, or even native Japanese and foreigners who could also speak English. And I remember just feeling very tired. Even just spending an hour, because my brain is working so hard trying to listen to other people and translate what I want to say and figure things out. So I'm not like that anymore, thankfully, but that's because I stopped doing this and started doing this. If you have any more questions about that, let me know. Pedro from Brazil, living in Ottawa, nice to see you. Please tell me, should I learn appropriate preparation, abide by, abide with? Is that because I was making mistakes while using prepositions? Yeah, again, instead of thinking about prepositions, you think about when do people use something. I know that it sounds like a small difference, but it's really very important. So if I begin with something, like I'm teaching my kids, where is the marker? Where is the marker? Now, this is an interesting thing you will learn about if you're learning the native way. This is the way I teach. Where is the marker? What would you say? How would you describe this situation? Anyone can just post a comment right now. Tell me, where is the marker? How might I say this? Where is the marker? I'll keep looking at questions while people, let's see here. So if you have an answer to that, just tell me, where is the marker? Just put that in a comment. We'll see if people can understand this example. All right, thanks for the information, says Abu Bakr. Nice to see you there. It's my pleasure. Yassine says, sir, I'm facing the biggest problem. I can't speak advanced sentences because I can't speak while desiring timing how actually I speak exactly. So your issue is going to be, again, because you're learning like this. Every issue really comes from learning in this way. So again, it makes it much easier if you just switch from doing this to doing this. That's when you start becoming a confident speaker. So you usually, when you have basic sentences like I run, and we're going to do past simple like I ran. When you have grammar points like this, if you think about it, a grammar point, you can think about it and translate for something simple. But if you're having something longer, you want to express a longer, more complicated idea, you can't think like this. It's just too difficult for you to try to organize different sentences and clauses within a sentence, or different phrases that you're putting them together in different ways. So I might say, I ran. And I can think about what's the past tense, and okay, I ran. But yesterday, while I ran, I was doing this and that, and I'm explaining a whole bunch of things. That's where you get a long sentence that's much more complicated. Okay? So if you want to use longer, more complicated, interesting phrases, you have to build your understanding up over here. So you have to learn these different things, and you have to know them really well, the same way natives do. And you do that by understanding situations, not by studying this, all right? So when you're first learning, it's easy to translate because things are very simple. But you have to move to this way of learning if you want to communicate longer, more interesting sentences. All right, let's see what we got here. Hopefully that makes sense. Do you have videos where you explain phrasal verbs? Because in my personal opinion, it results difficult to interpret many times. Yes, so I have a program called the Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs. You can also learn more about this if you click on the link in the description for Fluent for Life. So click on the link in the description below this. You can learn about the Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs, which covers all this and shows it to you from situations. So you learn phrasal verbs from situations rather than studying a bunch of rules. And I have a very simple 3-step process that helps you understand them like a native. All right, let's get back, see if we have some more examples of this. All right, how are you doing? It's 8 a.m. in India. I have a big problem in English. I have to speak fairly well, but to translate is still difficult. Could you help me, please? Yes. So if you understand like a native, you will speak like a native. If you think like a student, you will speak like a student. It's really that simple. All right. So if you want to learn, click on the link in the description of this video to learn more about Fluent for Life. Even if you do not join the program, you will learn a lot about how to get fluent, and it will make more sense to you, the things that I'm explaining now. It's really just the difference between understanding like a student and understanding like a native. All right, so why different languages have different tastes? I don't know what you mean by that, Michelle. Different tastes. I stopped to translate, just listen. All right, so we got, all right, so people are giving me some different examples of this. We got on your hand. So on your hand. What else do we have here? All right, it's on your hand or on the palm of your hand. Okay, you have on the palm. So the palm of, so this area right here, this is the palm. So the front of my hand, this area, the palm of my hand, the back of my hand, and the palm of my hand. So it's on your hand, on the palm of your hand. The marker is on your hand, top of your hand. There is the marker on your hand. Okay. Now, just to give you some examples of this, listen carefully, because I'm going to show you how this works from a situation. So without trying to explain about phrasal verbs or prepositions or anything about that, just watch. The marker is, you could say on my hand, but really, we usually say the marker is in my hand. Now, even though my hand is open right now, the marker is still in my hand. My hand is open, but you can say it's on my hand, but most people would probably say it's in my hand. Now, if I have it like this, then we definitely say the marker is on my hand. The marker is not in my hand up here. It's on my hand. So on the back of my hand. It's on my hand, but yeah, most people would say it's in my hand, even if it's not closed up. Okay? So this is just one example of understanding this. Let's say I have a chair. So if I have a chair, let's try to draw this. Kind of, yeah, that's going to be a bad. Let me draw a better example of this. So here's a chair from the side. So you're looking at a person sitting here, and there are their legs right here. So this person is in the chair because it's got kind of like side arms or whatever, but you can also say they're on a chair. So natives can say, we're talking about someone being in a chair because they're kind of closed up or something is going around them. So they're in something. But we're also talking about the flat area like they're on something. Let me grab a chair here. So this chair right here, make sure I don't break anything. This chair has no armrests. So most people, if they're sitting, we would say, oh, they're sitting on... I'm going to break this over here. They're sitting on a chair. They're sitting on a chair. But if the chair has armrests or something where it's more like a box, people would think about sitting in it. Okay? So the point is not to know like what does on or in mean. It's just for that situation, natives are thinking about it slightly differently. They probably won't give you that kind of explanation the way I just did, but this is how natives are thinking about it. So you could be on a chair or in a chair, and both of those would be correct. But it's just a slightly different understanding of that. So the marker, or the eraser, is on my hand right now. So we don't say it's in my hand. I can't close my hand backwards like this. But right now, the marker might be in my hand. So maybe my hand is not, it's not closed up around the eraser, but it could be. And so even if there's just a slight little area around it, almost like a box, and it becomes in my hand. Does that make sense? So remember, when you learn the textbook way, you begin with a word like on or in. but in the native way, you begin with a situation. So the situation is this. Okay? This is a simple situation, and we've got like a marker or an eraser. The eraser is in my hand. But you can also say it's on my hand. But again, it's just a slight difference in what the meaning of that is, but they can both describe this same situation. Okay? So if you learn as a native, this is what I teach in my programs and in my videos like this. That's how you're actually going to become a great speaker. Let's see. Thank you for all your help, says Jesus or Jesus. And Jose, what days is online class? So it's not, I don't have regular scheduled live videos. I have them sometimes, usually around this time. This is Thursday morning in Japan, and sometimes on Instagram I will do videos as well. But they are not scheduled, and if you want the actual lessons that do all the actual training and teaching you things like that, it's in Fluent for Life, which you can learn more about by clicking on the link in the description. Whenever I listen the English jokes, I always try to translate. It doesn't make any sense. It is a funny thing. It comes out after translating in a simple sentence. Yeah, so learning grammar and humor or jokes, that kind of thing, it can be more difficult if you're trying to think about it logically, and that takes some time to understand those things. Usually the first kind of joke that people learn is a pun. A pun. So I notice my daughters are learning these things in English and Japanese, but puns are it just means a different way, like night and K-N-I-G-H-T, night and night. So it's two different words that have a different meaning, but they sound the same. And so you can make a joke about something like I had a good night, but it's like a knight, like fighting with a sword kind of thing. So it's not very funny, but it's a good way to start understanding the language. So puns. All right. Let's see. All right. So please explain one thing. Please explain one thing, please, how we could think in English while speaking to others. So that's what this is. All right. So everything I'm explaining is how you can think in English. So if you learn in English the same way natives learn, then you think in English too. You understand, like, look, yeah, the marker is on my hand. It's on my hand. It's on my hand. It's on my arm. It's on my head. But I can see how it's also in my hand. Okay. So the more you learn from situations in English, the more you speak like a native. All right, it's very easy. All right. Any other questions about that? If you catch something is in my hand. Yes, so yes, you can do something like that as well. If I have my hand closed around something, then definitely it's in my hand, in my hand. Say fish, ball, cat. Leandro says, fish, ball, cat. Hopefully these aren't some secret codes or something like that. All right. Hopefully this makes sense for people, but the basic idea is that if you learn as a student normally learns, then it's going to be much more difficult for you to have real conversations and use longer sentences and actually understand much more difficult English. So at least the kind of fast speech and difficult accents of natives and their native vocabulary as well. But if you understand like a native, it just means you're learning from situations, you're learning all in English. It's really just the opposite of what most people do. So if you do that, you will become a fluent speaker. All right? So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can click on the link for Fluent for Life in the description. But all of the kinds of things like this video that I'm doing, it's really just trying to help people understand and answer any questions people might have. But it's a lot of the same information about just learning like a native. So I wanted to give you many, many examples. Each video I try to give a few new ones to help people understand. But if you learn like a native, then you will speak like one. Does anyone have any questions about that specifically? All right, so I know you can ask me to repeat certain phrases. If you just want to hear me pronounce words, get Frederick. You can learn more about this app at EnglishAnyone.com. Also, if you click on the link in the description about Fluent for Life, you should be able to find it on the premium courses page on our website. Will have more information about Frederick. But this is listening to me pronounce words and actually teach you pronunciation step by step, the same way natives learn. So if you want to hear me pronounce words, you can get that. So, sir, which series should we want to watch for fluency and learning? Yeah, it doesn't. People think about this like there's a particular series for fluency, and there isn't one. It's just, what are you interested in? If you like a particular thing, then watch that show. If you don't like that, then don't watch that show. And for me, the more important thing is to focus on a particular situation and understand that like a native. So my problem with TV shows is that you get one situation and then it's a completely different situation next time. So there might be some things like a greeting is in every episode, but you often don't get enough review with watching those shows to really become a fluent speaker. So you'll understand a lot, you'll learn a lot of vocabulary, but because you don't review that information enough, you won't become a great speaker. All right. Can you please explain no pun intended? Yeah, so no pun intended means that you might say a word. Well, what's a good pun? Like, I can't think of a good example, but it's just when you say one word and then you don't actually mean that. It's much better if you understand with an example. I'm just trying to think of one, like of a pun example. So we can use this one actually as a pun. I might say like he is a good night. And then I might say like good night after that, like the different meaning of night. But then I say, oh, no pun intended, like I just accidentally used something that created a pun. So it's better if you go to Google and just type in no pun intended, you'll get examples of this. All right. And yeah, difference between over and on. Over means don't touch. Is that true? Yes. So again, Jose is asking a question like, if you understand the situation, like the marker is over my hand. The marker is over my hand. On, over. Over, on. So when you see it like that and you actually get the real example of something, then you understand it like a native. So you're not thinking about the vocabulary, you're thinking about the situation first and then connecting that to the vocabulary. All right? So we've gone over an hour, but it's been a pleasure. Do you consider reading helpful to improving speaking? Yes, absolutely. Reading is helpful as well. So when I teach in Fluent for Life, people do everything. They do some reading and writing as well to build their fluency. You have to, again, approach things in many different angles the same way natives do. But if you want to become a fluent speaker, that's how you do it. If you'd like to learn more about Fluent for Life or Frederick or anything else, you can visit us at EnglishAnyone.com or just click on the link right in the description below this video. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I'll see you whenever the next video is. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.